Today's guest is Jon Morris. He took prize money from a college new venture challenge and built a company that he took from a one-person shop to one of the largest independent marketing agencies in the world. He then sold it and followed his passion to start his current company, which is Fiscal Advocate, where he helps fellow entrepreneurs. However, he has an interesting take here, which I love this from his LinkedIn bio. You can check him out. He says that he is awesome at boring. Not that Jon is boring. And with 30,000 followers in LinkedIn, you can see that he obviously is not. But Jon, welcome to the show. Please talk to us a bit about how you find beauty and inspiration in the hidden complexity of the everyday mundane.
I have two takes on that. The first one is a lot of business is boring. Like pounding the phones and sending out emails to win new clients or putting the same report together over and over again. And I actually thrive on these mundane tasks. And I like to think about how you can do them more efficiently, how you can do it more effectively, how you might be able to automate them. And so that's one aspect. And then when you think of life, one of my mentors said to me that there's three elements to life. There is work, self, and family. And if you want to be great, you get to only pick two. So for me, it's work and it's family. And so I have three young daughters. I have an amazing wife. And look, when you're living every single day, there are moments of, that you're not doing all the most fun, exciting things in the world. And so how do you bring energy and excitement and positivity and silliness to those boring moments that make it fun for everybody? So those are my two elements I think of when I think of boring.
Nice. I like this. And I like the term mundane. I actually use this in my own book where I talk about there is no mundane detail. And I get that from Office Space with the whole, there's no mundane detail, Michael. It's not a mundane detail. There is so much power in doing the small things efficiently. And I think that's the make or break for a lot of companies. But you talked about something else important here too, which fits in really nice with Cake on Tuesday, is being silly.
Yeah.
And I think finding joy we spend so much of our time at work, finding joy in the everyday. How do you do that at your own company? How do you ensure that you are creating joy and culture when sometimes what you're doing could be deemed as mundane?
One, I think it's a mindset. So we have a huge performance-driven culture. The team works incredibly hard. I believe in intensity, but at the same time, and I don't know if this is necessarily silliness, but it's focusing on positivity. When you have a high-performance culture, it generally means that you're doing 95% right, 5% wrong. And it's how you treat the employees and what you reward or what you punish. And so I'm a much bigger believer in the 95% that you do right versus the 5% that you do wrong. But I also say I happen to love April Fool's Day. It's one of my favorite holidays. And so some of the pranks I did, this is probably before I had an HR department, but one year I told the whole company that I decided to sell the company. And
that's a big one.
I had an office in Chicago and an office in Costa Rica. And I said, for now, the intent is to keep our office, but it might make sense for us all to move to Detroit. Another year.
How long do you let them stew in that before you let them know?
So generally what I do is I'll do 50 carriage returns and I'll say Happy April Fool's Day.
Okay.
And what generally ends up happening, because this was pre-COVID, so everyone's in the office together and the first person sees it and then the next person, it just goes around. So it doesn't last that long. One year, we were moving offices. Everyone knew we were moving offices. And so I sent an announcement that we found our new office, but I picked a place that was like an hour and a half to 2 hours away from where we are in the suburbs, where you'd have to deal with all sorts of traffic. But I had blueprints, and I talked about how there was going to be shuttle services and all these things.
You get detailed with your pranks, huh?
And then the last one is I changed the dress code, where I said that we're going to have to go to business casual, and had everyone freak out over that.
So I love that, because I think it's when you're working hard, you have to play hard. I think it's important to make sure that you are keeping things fun and adding some levity to the process. Has it ever backfired on you?
I wouldn't say it's backfired on me in terms of HR issues or major culture issues. That example of the one where we were moving to the suburbs, I sent it out on a Friday, and there was an employee that wasn't in the office, and he sat there and he was stressed the entire weekend. And he came in to me on Monday and he's like, Jon, I love it here, but I can't commute to the suburbs. It's just not I picked this location for a reason. And my response to him was, look, I'm a big person that I believe in like attention to detail. And I'm really disappointed that you didn't read the clear detail at the bottom where it says Happy April Fool's Day. So it didn't backfire on me, but I do feel bad, that I ruined that guy's
A
weekend.
stressful weekend.
Yeah.
So this idea of culture and focusing on balancing your environment, I've said a lot. I think culture breeds innovation. We're talking about the innovation space in this podcast a lot. I think when you create the right environment, that really helps open up your team to be more innovative and knowing that they can push the envelope and get outside the box. How have you seen that translate with your company, knowing that you have this sort of innovative culture? How have you seen people respond to that? And do you feel like that's changed innovation internally?
So I'm a big believer in investing, in budgeting, and pushing for innovation. I don't know otherwise. So it's a hard question for me to answer because I've always built a culture based on innovation and on having new ideas. And I also have a team that can implement those innovations. And my entire organization, I have a service component, but I also have a technology component. It's one group that seamlessly is giving ideas to each other. Where you'll sometimes run into challenges is we can only do one idea at a time in terms of what gets developed. It's making sure people still stay positive and feel like there's an impact. I'll give you an example. A huge part of our product roadmap is based on what our client service team believes is the most important thing, as opposed to what I believe is the most important thing. So I think that creates a culture where they feel like they're being listened to and that their ideas are actually getting implemented.
Yeah. So this is not your first company.
Yep.
You've done this rodeo before.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you've learned a lot in the way. And I think you mentioned in your bio too, that you feel like you've learned as much from your failures as your successes. Can you share with us maybe one success you're most proud of and one failure you learned the most from?
I'll start with the failure. I started my first digital agency 2 days after graduating college.
I like how you gave it a good waiting period there.
Exactly. I moved. I moved a day and then I started the company. And I was scared to fire people. I had some people that I needed to fire, and I was awful, which I think is funny because now what I do is finance management. I was awful at managing the finances. And the company failed during the dot-com period. And when the dot-com crash happened, I lost 80% of my revenue in 1 month.
Wow.
And I blamed for a few years the dot-com crash. Like I used to have this line of the pendulum didn't swing the other way. The pendulum got cut. Like that was like what I would tell people. And when I look back at it though, if I had stronger financial discipline, if I made tougher decisions to make sure that I was upgrading the quality of the team, I think the company would have survived. And so when I started my second company, which was Rise, which is the one I grew to almost $40 million in 16 years, I really looked at myself in the mirror and did a lot of soul searching of, was I willing to make the tough decisions in order to make sure that I had a world-class team?
Yeah.
And so if I was actually to take the thing that I'm most proud of in Rise is really the team. It was the team and the culture. We put together a group of A players that just way outperformed relative to the competition. And then the other one, I talked about this performance-based culture. I was very proud of the intensity of the organization. I had an employee of mine, he's actually still there, and he left from Discover Card. He said, Jon, I'm the hardest working person at Discover. And when he came over, I was like, look, I just want you to understand, like you're coming into a different culture. You're not going to, I just want you to be warned about the intensity of the company. Like, I promise you, Johnny's, I'll be able to handle it. So he's about a month in and I'm like, so how's it going? He's like, you talked about the intensity. I now get it. And he's like, when I said I was the hardest person working at Discover, he's like, it was very true. But if I ever wanted to move to slow down to the speed of Discover, I could. It's like, when I tried slowing down for a moment, I'm getting text messages, I'm getting phone calls, my emails blowing up, like my instant messengers going crazy. And I believe in a work-life balance. Like I want people to have their weekends. I want them to have their nights to their friends or their family or to other interests. But I really believe that if you want to scale and you want to grow, every day matters. And you have to have an intensity in terms of how you work. And so I would say that culture, I think, is something I'm so proud of because I think it's what led to the success that we had.
I found when I've been leading teams, having short milestones, clear milestones, and then
Yep.
celebrating them when you hit them. And you don't always hit them. It's not always a
Yeah.
success, but taking the time to review what did we mess up and how do we improve from it. Do you find the same, or what strategies do you work to celebrate forward progress and make sure the team stays motivated when you are working hard?
So I'll say if I had to improve on something, I think I'm not good at celebrating the small things. I think if I get absolutely improve and get better, I'm on to like the next thing.
Yeah.
But we absolutely, so we do 90-day planning. So
Mhm.
every 90 days, the leadership team plans out the next 90 days. We have weekly meetings where we discuss the progress of those 90-day initiatives. But we will also sunset initiatives and we'll add initiatives. I just had my leadership meeting today and I showed them our 14-week plan for our sales and marketing strategy.
Yeah.
And went into great detail of like one of them was podcast interviews. And but I believe that when you do something, you do it in a big way. So at Rise, one of our big plays was winning awards. And I had a theory that if you win one award, no one's going to remember you. But if you win 30 awards a year, everyone's going to remember you. And so we had a database of 300 awards. We would file for them, we'd submit. They were around growth, best places to work, innovation, and digital marketing. And we're not doing award strategy yet for this company, but we are now doing podcasting. I think you're my 5th podcast interview this week.
Nice.
And we're doing podcast interviewing at scale. We're expanding our blog posting and we have very clear things. And I talked about the intensity and how every day matters in terms of like how we achieve our new business goals for the next 3 months.
If you want a way for how to translate that to your internal employees to celebrate, there's this great book in the market called Cake on Tuesday that talks a lot about celebration.
I'll absolutely add it to my next book.
Fantastic. Jon, tell us a little bit. Where do you want to go next with Fiscal Advocate? What's exciting for you? What's your next challenge?
So we're a tech-enabled company. We only focus on service-based companies. So companies that sell time and want to monetize that time. Like that's what we specialize in, typically between 10 million and $100 million in terms of size of business. And the software we have built is budgeting and forecasting, it's benchmarking, it's business intelligence. And in about a month, we are launching basically the AI CFO. And so it will be taking all of my thought leadership, all of the data that's connected to Engine BI, our technology platform, all the aggregated client data from that platform, as well as a knowledge center where you can add other financial information into the platform where just like ChatGPT, you can ask it questions. We're calling it Jim. The chairman of the company is named Jim, so we named it after him.
Nice.
And you'll be able to gain insights faster, always on type thing. And so I'm really excited about that because I think it's something that doesn't exist in the marketplace that's really unique.
How about one thing you would really like people to better understand about your industry? They just don't know.
Can I give you 2? So the first one is there are only 3 KPIs that matter. So when you think about growing your company and you want to spend your time and your money as intelligently as possible, every single thing should either be growing your cash, should be increasing your profit margin, or making it so that your year-over-year revenue growth is faster. So that's the first one. The second one is, and I get a little bit in the technical terms, you need to know what your gross margin is, which is how profitably you service your customers. So when you take your revenue minus all of the employees that do client work, freelancers, technology, client gifts, travel and entertainment, whatever's left over, I want to be between 50 and 60% of your revenue. And if you can do that, you could have an amazing business. If you're below 40%, you're most likely losing money. And so it's a simple number, like after you manipulate the data, like the first time to answer, but it really is the key driver to the success of your business.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are great actionable insights too. What is your best career advice you have ever gotten?
That's a good question. I am trying to think about best career advice I've ever gotten.
If worst comes to mind, we'll take that too.
I'll actually use an example my mom gave me about my grandma's art gallery and why it was so successful. And the answer was She loved the customer more than the artist. And when you think about your business, you got to really care and love your customer. And if you continually focus on doing right by your customer, you're going to build something special. If you care more about the product and what you're delivering, I think it's going to be hard to achieve success.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. I put you on the spot with that one, I know.
Yeah.
All right. In a minute, we'll wrap in a minute. I'll give you a chance to plug where people can find you. But before that, any last insights you want to share about you, the company, your growth, where you're going, that you want people to know more about?
Yeah. So I actually run a community called the Professional Service Community. It's free. It's for any 8-figure service-based company. Doesn't matter if you're blue collar, white collar, law firm, marketing agency, tech service provider. Would love for you to join the community. We are teaching playbooks to help you grow your cash, your profit margin, and your revenue growth. And anyone interested in strategic planning and finance management services in that service sector, Fiscal Advocate would love to help you. And that's a little bit over who I am and how we can help you.
Fantastic. Where can people find you, Jon?
So you can email me at jon@fiscaladvocate.com. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I do a lot of posting on a regular basis, or you can go to fiscaladvocate.com.
Awesome. I love that you're adding some fun and life and importance to all the little details that make business work, because that's such an important thing. Thank you for being here with us, Jon. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.